My name is Sarah, and what I'm about to share with you is something I've kept locked inside for years. Something that still makes my hands shake when I think about it. You know those perfect family channels you see on YouTube? The ones with the matching outfits and the pristine houses and the parents who seem to have it all figured out? Well, let me tell you what really happened behind the cameras in our house, because the truth is darker than anything you could imagine. I was 12 when it started, and my little sister Emma was only 7. We lived in a beautiful suburb outside of Denver, Colorado, in one of those neighborhoods where every lawn was perfectly manicured and every family seemed to have stepped out of a magazine. Our house had a white picket fence, can you believe that? The American dream, right there for everyone to see. But inside those walls, something was rotting away at our family's core. Mom had always been interested in social media, spending hours scrolling through Instagram and Pinterest, creating these elaborate vision boards of the life she wanted us to have. Dad worked in tech, one of those jobs where he spent most of his time in front of screens anyway, so when Mom suggested starting a family YouTube channel, he thought it would be a fun project we could all do together. At first, that's exactly what it was. We'd film little videos on weekends, nothing too serious, just our family doing crafts or going to the park or trying new recipes. Emma and I actually enjoyed it in the beginning because it felt like we were playing make-believe, and Mom and Dad seemed happier than they'd been in years. But then something shifted. It happened gradually, like watching ice slowly crack before it breaks completely. Our first viral video was this silly thing where Emma had gotten her hair tangled in some slime we were making, and she started crying, and instead of turning off the camera, Mom kept filming. The comments poured in about how authentic and real we were, how refreshing it was to see a family channel that showed the messy moments too. That video got 3 million views in a week, and suddenly, Mom's eyes had this gleam in them that I'd never seen before. The schedule became intense after that. We went from filming once a week to filming every single day. Mom quit her job as a dental hygienist to focus on the channel full-time, and she expected Emma and me to give it the same dedication. At first, it was just staying up late to help edit videos or missing a playdate here and there to film content. But then, Mom started planning our entire lives around the camera. She'd wake us up at 5 in the morning to get the perfect sunrise shot, or keep us up until 2 in the morning because she needed to post something before midnight to keep our upload streak going. I remember the first time Mom hit me. It wasn't like in the movies where everything goes silent and dramatic. It was quick and calculated, a sharp slap across my face because I'd yawned during a take. She didn't even pause before she said action again, and I had to smile at the camera with my cheeks still stinging, pretending to be excited about whatever craft project we were supposedly enjoying. Dad saw it happen, I know he did, but he just adjusted the ring light and kept filming. The comments on our videos were always so positive, telling Mom what an amazing mother she was, how lucky Emma and I were to have such devoted parents. People would write these long paragraphs about how they wished their family could be more like ours, how we inspired them to spend more quality time with their own children. If only they knew that after the cameras turned off, Emma and I would collapse from exhaustion while Mom obsessed over analytics and Dad calculated our earnings. School became a problem because we were always tired. My grades started slipping, and my teachers noticed I was falling asleep in class. Emma's teacher called home concerned because she'd stopped playing with the other kids at recess, choosing instead to sit alone and stare at nothing. That's when Mom made the decision that changed everything. She told the school that we'd both been diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, that we needed special accommodations and shorter school days to manage our condition. The lie came so easily to her, like she'd been practicing it in her mind. She even produced a doctor's note, though I never saw which doctor had supposedly written it. The school believed her completely. Why wouldn't they? We were that perfect YouTube family after all. Mom started keeping us home more often, claiming we needed rest, but really she needed us available for filming at any time of day. The channel kept growing, and with it came sponsorship deals and brand partnerships. Suddenly we had more money than ever before, but Emma and I saw none of the benefits. The toys that companies sent us were just props that got locked away after filming. The clothes we modeled had to be kept pristine for photos, so we weren't allowed to actually wear them. We lived surrounded by abundance that we couldn't touch, like being starving at a feast where all the food was plastic. Mom's control became absolute. She monitored everything we ate because she said the camera added 10 pounds, and we needed to look our best. Emma, who had always been naturally thin, became gaunt. I started hiding granola bars under my mattress, eating them late at night when I was sure everyone was asleep. But even that became risky when Mom installed cameras in our rooms, claiming it was for behind-the-scenes content, though those cameras never seemed to turn off. The breaking point came 8 months into our YouTube career. We'd reached a plateau in subscribers, and Mom was desperate for something to make us go viral again. She spent hours researching other successful family channels, taking notes on what made certain videos explode. That's when she found a whole subset of channels dedicated to family health journeys, kids overcoming illnesses, medical mysteries that viewers could follow along with. The engagement on those videos was insane. Thousands of comments offering support and prayers and, more importantly, donations. I'll never forget the night she came into my room with the electric razor. I was already in bed, half asleep, when she flipped on the light and told me to sit up. I thought I was in trouble for something, but then I saw the razor in her hand and Dad standing in the doorway with his camera already rolling. Mom's face was strange, excited and determined, and something else I couldn't quite name. She told me we were going to try something new for the channel, something that would really connect with our audience on an emotional level. The first pass of the razor through my hair felt like a violation so deep I couldn't even scream. I just sat there, frozen, as chunks of my long brown hair fell onto my Disney princess bedsheets. Emma appeared in the doorway, awakened by the buzzing sound, and I saw her face crumple as she realized what was happening. Mom kept talking the whole time, practicing her script about my brave battle with cancer, how we'd decided to take control and shave my head before the chemo could make my hair fall out. She made me practice my lines while she worked, coaching me on how to look brave but vulnerable, strong but still needing support. By the time she finished, I was completely bald, and Dad had enough footage for a 10-minute video. Mom hugged me then, tears streaming down her face, but they weren't real tears for what she'd done to me. They were tears of joy for the content she'd just created. She kept saying how proud she was of my bravery, how this was going to help so many other families going through the same thing. But we weren't going through anything. It was all a lie, and now I was trapped in it. The video went live the next morning with the title, "Our daughter's cancer diagnosis. Our heart is breaking." Mom had stayed up all night editing, adding sad music and old photos of me with my long hair, creating this narrative of a perfect childhood interrupted by tragedy. She'd even filmed herself and Dad having a fake conversation about treatment options, their voices carefully modulated to sound devastated but hopeful. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Comments flooded in within minutes, people sharing their own cancer stories, offering advice on the best pediatric oncologists, sending virtual hugs and prayers. The subscriber count started climbing rapidly, and with it came the donation links that Mom had strategically placed in the video description. I went to school that Monday wearing a wig Mom had bought, but she'd chosen one that was slightly different from my real hair so people would notice something was off. When friends asked what happened, I had to stick to the script. Cancer, melanoma specifically, found during a routine checkup. Starting treatment soon. The words felt like poison in my mouth, but Mom had made it clear what would happen if I deviated from the story. She'd shown me articles about kids who had lied about having cancer, how they'd been publicly shamed, how their families had been destroyed. If I told the truth now, she said, no one would believe me. They'd think I was the liar. The worst part was watching how people reacted. Teachers who had been strict with me suddenly became gentle and accommodating. Kids who had ignored me wanted to be my friend, to show they cared about the sick girl. Parents organized meal trains and fundraisers. The school even held a special assembly about sun safety and early detection, with me sitting in the front row like some kind of cautionary tale. Every kindness felt like another bar in my prison, because I knew it was all based on a lie I couldn't escape. Emma's turn came about 6 weeks later. Mom had been researching childhood illnesses obsessively, looking for something that would be visible but not immediately fatal, something that could progress slowly enough to maintain audience interest. She settled on juvenile arthritis, but that wasn't dramatic enough. She needed something rarer, something that would make people feel like they were following a unique medical journey. That's how she landed on a rare form of muscular dystrophy that primarily affected young girls. The props came first. Leg braces ordered from a medical supply website that didn't require prescriptions, a child-sized walker, exercises printed from physical therapy websites that Emma had to practice to make her movements look convincingly impaired. Mom spent hours training her, making her walk with her feet turned in, teaching her to stumble at strategic moments when the camera was rolling. When Emma resisted, Mom would remind her about all the sick kids who would find hope in her story, all the families who would feel less alone because of her bravery. But Emma was only 7, and she couldn't always remember to maintain the act. She'd forget and run normally on the playground or jump up from the couch without her supposed struggle. That's when Mom decided the braces needed to be modified. Dad worked in the garage one evening, drilling additional holes, adding restraints that could be tightened to actually restrict Emma's movement. They forced her to wear them constantly, even to bed, so her muscles would weaken and her gait would naturally become impaired. I watched my little sister transform from a vibrant, energetic child into someone who genuinely struggled to walk. The braces rubbed her skin raw, leaving wounds that Mom would carefully document for particularly emotional update videos. Emma stopped dancing around the house, stopped playing hopscotch, stopped doing all the things that had made her laugh. But our subscriber count hit 1 million, and Mom said that made it all worthwhile. The financial aspect became its own addiction for our parents. The channel was monetized now, bringing in serious money from ads. But the real cash came from the fundraising campaigns. Mom had set up separate GoFundMe pages for each of us, complete with heartbreaking descriptions of our conditions and regular updates on our deteriorating health. She'd created this whole narrative about how insurance wouldn't cover certain experimental treatments, how we were struggling to afford the care we needed. People donated thousands of dollars, money that went straight into accounts Mom controlled. She became an expert at what she called engagement optimization. She knew exactly when to post updates for maximum visibility, how to word things to trigger the most emotional responses, which hashtags would get us trending. She studied other successful illness channels like they were textbooks, taking notes on their strategies. She even joined private Facebook groups for parents of sick children, not for support but for research. She'd screenshot conversations about real symptoms and treatments, using them to make our fake conditions more believable. The home environment became a production studio where we were always performing. Mom installed ring lights in every room so she could film at any moment. She'd burst into my room at random times, camera in hand, to capture candid moments of me struggling with my fake illness. I had to always be ready, always in character. She bought makeup specifically designed to make me look sicker, teaching me to apply it myself so I'd look appropriately ill for school. Dark circles under my eyes, a pallor to my skin, even a slight tremor in my hands that I had to maintain whenever anyone might be watching. Dad's role evolved from cameraman to enforcer. While Mom directed our performances, he ensured compliance. He monitored our communications, reading every text message, checking every email. When I tried to write in a journal, he found it and confronted me about entries where I'd expressed how tired I was, how much I missed my old life. He said I was being selfish, thinking only of myself when our family's future depended on the channel's success. He made me burn the journal in the backyard while he filmed, turning even that into content about letting go of the past and embracing my journey. The isolation was deliberate and complete. Old friends were discouraged from visiting because we needed to limit exposure to germs during my supposed treatment. Birthday parties were skipped because Emma's condition made it too difficult for her to participate in normal kid activities. Grandparents were told we needed space to deal with our medical challenges as a family. Everyone understood. Everyone gave us the distance Mom said we needed, not realizing they were enabling our imprisonment. But bodies can only take so much abuse before they start breaking down for real. Emma's leg, constantly restricted by the modified braces, developed serious problems. The skin broke down from the pressure and friction, creating wounds that wouldn't heal properly. She developed a limp that had nothing to do with muscular dystrophy and everything to do with the damage being inflicted on her. Mom was thrilled because it made the performance more convincing, but I saw the real pain in Emma's eyes, the way she'd cry at night when the wounds would throb. My own health deteriorated from the stress and restricted diet. Mom had decided that cancer patients in chemo often lost weight, so she monitored every bite I took. I was allowed just enough calories to function, but not enough to maintain healthy body weight. Combined with the psychological torture of maintaining the lie, I developed actual symptoms. Headaches, insomnia, anxiety attacks that Mom would film and attribute to my cancer treatment. The line between performance and reality blurred until I couldn't tell what was real anymore. The school situation finally forced Mom's hand when a particularly observant teacher started asking too many questions. Mrs. Rodriguez had taught 5th grade for 30 years, and something about our situation didn't sit right with her. She noticed inconsistencies in our story, moments when Emma forgot to limp or when my energy levels didn't match someone supposedly going through chemotherapy. She started documenting her observations, comparing notes with other teachers, building a case that something wasn't right when Mrs. Rodriguez requested a meeting with our parents to discuss her concerns. Mom made a dramatic decision. We were pulling out of school entirely. She announced it on the channel as a necessary step to protect our compromised immune systems, to give us the flexibility to pursue treatments in other states, to focus on our health without the pressure of academic performance. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. People praised her for putting our health first, for being such a devoted mother. Mrs. Rodriguez's concerns were dismissed as a teacher overstepping boundaries, not understanding the complex needs of medically fragile children. Home became our entire world after that. Mom set up what she called our learning room, but it was really just another filming location. Educational content became part of the channel, showing how sick kids could still pursue their studies with the right support. But actual education was secondary to content creation. We'd spend hours filming a single math lesson, doing take after take until Mom was satisfied with our performances. Then we'd move on to the next video without actually completing the work. The medication phase started subtly. Mom began giving me pills she said were vitamins to help with the side effects of my treatment. But I recognized them from her own medicine cabinet, bottles prescribed for her anxiety and depression. When I confronted her, she explained that many medications had multiple uses, that these would help me maintain the appearance of someone going through chemotherapy. The tremors they caused, the mental fog, the fatigue, they all supported our narrative. I tried to resist at first, hiding the pills under my tongue, spitting them out when she wasn't looking. But Mom adapted quickly. She started crushing them into my food, dissolving them in drinks, making it impossible to avoid ingestion. She kept detailed logs of my doses, adjusting them based on what symptoms she wanted to enhance for upcoming videos. Too much and I'd be unable to perform at all. Too little and I might have the energy to resist. Emma's medication came later, after a video where she'd seemed too energetic, received comments questioning the progression of her disease. Mom found muscle relaxants that would make her movements genuinely impaired, supplements that would cause the joint pain associated with her supposed condition. Watching my 7-year-old sister struggle with drug-induced symptoms while Mom filmed her brave attempts at physical therapy broke something inside me. The turning point came during a live stream event Mom had planned for our 2-year channel anniversary. She'd hyped it for weeks as a special thank you to our supporters, promising major updates on both our conditions. The donations during live streams were always higher, people caught up in the moment and wanting to show their support in real time. Mom had coached us extensively on what to say, what emotions to show, how to maximize what she called the giving impulse in viewers. But something went wrong with Emma's medication that day. Maybe Mom had miscalculated the dose, or maybe Emma's small body had finally reached its limit. Midway through the stream, she started having what looked like a seizure. Her body went rigid, her eyes rolled back, and she fell off her chair. For a moment, even Mom was frozen, caught between her performance and the reality that her daughter was in actual medical distress. Then she snapped back into character, crying for the camera about how Emma's condition was progressing faster than expected, how we needed prayers now more than ever. Dad called 911 while staying in frame, making sure the camera captured every moment of the drama. The live viewer count skyrocketed as word spread across social media. Donations poured in faster than the system could process them. By the time the paramedics arrived, we'd raised more money in 30 minutes than in the previous 6 months combined. Mom rode in the ambulance with Emma while Dad and I followed in the car, him already planning how to edit the footage for maximum impact. At the hospital, real medical professionals examined Emma for the first time in over a year. The paramedics had stabilized her, determining it was a reaction to medication rather than a seizure disorder. But their examination revealed so much more. The damage to her legs from the braces, the malnutrition from her restricted diet, the presence of multiple non-prescribed medications in her system. Questions started immediately, and Mom's prepared medical story began to unravel under professional scrutiny. I saw an opportunity in the chaos and took it. While Mom was focused on Emma and Dad was dealing with paperwork, I approached a nurse who'd been kind to me. I told her everything in a rushed whisper about the fake cancer, the forced medications, the years of lies. I could see the skepticism in her eyes, probably thinking I was having some kind of breakdown. But then I showed her something Mom didn't know I had, my real hair. I'd kept a braid of it hidden in my backpack, the one thing I'd managed to save from that horrible night with the razor. It was my only proof that I'd once been a healthy girl with long brown hair, not the cancer patient everyone thought they knew. The nurse looked at the braid, then at my medical chart with its fictional history, then back at me. Something in my eyes must have convinced her because she quietly called for a social worker. The investigation that followed was swift and thorough. Child Protective Services had protocols for suspected medical child abuse, and our case checked every box. The elaborate fictional medical histories, the documented injuries from unnecessary medical devices, the presence of unprescribed medications, the financial fraud through fundraising. What really sealed it was Dad's breakdown under questioning. Separated from Mom for the first time in years, his story fell apart within hours. He confessed to everything, desperate to shift blame and salvage what he could of his own reputation. Mom maintained the lie longer, insisting even to police that we were sick, that she was being persecuted for seeking alternative treatments. She produced binders full of documentation she'd created over the years, fake test results, and forged doctor's notes and printouts from medical websites. It took forensic analysis to prove the documents were fabricated, but by then the physical evidence was overwhelming. Emma's legs showed clear signs of prolonged restraint and injury. My blood work revealed psychiatric medications I'd never been prescribed. Our medical records from before the channel showed 2 healthy children with no chronic conditions. The YouTube channel was immediately terminated, all videos removed, though mirrors had already spread across the internet. Our story became a cautionary tale shared in parenting groups and true crime forums. People who had donated felt betrayed and angry, some pursuing legal action to recover their contributions. The investigation revealed that over $200,000 had been raised through various campaigns, most of it already spent on maintaining our parents' lifestyle and growing the channel. The legal proceedings took months. Emma and I were placed with our maternal grandmother in Portland, Oregon, a woman we barely knew but who stepped up when the court needed an emergency placement. She was nothing like Mom. Quiet and steady and absolutely horrified by what her daughter had done. She'd been estranged from our family for years, Mom having cut her off for being toxic and unsupportive, which we now understood meant she'd questioned Mom's behavior. Grandma's house became our first taste of normal life in years. No cameras, no scripts, no performance schedules, just regular meals at regular times, bedtime stories without an audience, and the freedom to be sick or healthy without it becoming content. Emma needed physical therapy to address the damage from the braces, and I required careful weaning off the psychiatric medications under proper medical supervision, but for the first time we had real doctors treating real conditions with our actual well-being in mind. The trial was a media sensation. YouTube parents fake children's illnesses for fame and fortune became headlines across the country. Mom and Dad were charged with child abuse, fraud, and exploitation of minors. The prosecution presented our case as part of a disturbing trend in family vlogging, where children became products and their childhoods became content. Expert witnesses testified about the psychological damage of forced performance, the medical consequences of unnecessary treatments, and the long-term effects of childhood exploitation. Mom's defense tried to argue that she genuinely believed we were sick, that she suffered from a psychological condition that made her create symptoms where none existed. But the evidence was too calculated, too profit-driven to support an insanity defense. The detailed spreadsheets tracking which symptoms generated the most donations, the careful timing of medical crises to coincide with fundraising pushes, the deliberate escalation of our conditions when viewership plateaued, it all pointed to conscious fraud rather than delusion. Dad took a plea deal, testifying against Mom in exchange for a reduced sentence. He detailed their planning sessions, how they'd researched rare diseases, practiced emotional responses, and strategized content for maximum engagement. He admitted to modifying Emma's braces to cause actual impairment, to crushing pills into our food, to helping maintain the elaborate deception even when he saw the physical and psychological toll it was taking on us. His testimony was devastating to Mom's defense. The judge sentenced Mom to 8 years in federal prison for wire fraud, with additional state charges for child abuse. Dad received 5 years as part of his plea agreement. They were both required to pay restitution to defrauded donors and were permanently barred from profiting off any content involving minors. The court also issued a unique ruling that all footage of Emma and me be removed from the internet where possible, recognizing our right to privacy and the ongoing harm of having our exploitation permanently viewable. Recovery wasn't instant or easy. Years of performance had left deep scars that couldn't be healed with a court verdict. I struggled with identity issues, unsure who I was without the sick girl persona I'd been forced to maintain. Therapy helped, but progress was slow. I'd catch myself applying the sick makeup out of habit, or walking with the shuffling gait I'd practiced for so long. Sometimes I'd panic in social situations, afraid I was breaking character, forgetting that there was no character anymore. Emma's physical recovery progressed faster than her emotional healing. The damage to her legs improved with proper treatment, though she'd always have some residual effects from the years in modified braces. But she struggled with trust, flinching when adults approached, afraid of what they might ask her to do. She had nightmares about cameras hidden in the walls, about being forced to perform again. Grandma removed all the mirrors from the house for a while because Emma couldn't look at her reflection without seeing the sick child she'd been forced to pretend to be. School reintegration was its own challenge. We'd been out of traditional education for so long, and our notoriety made normal interaction difficult. Some kids had seen the videos before they were removed, others had heard about the case from their parents. We were the victims of a crime, but also oddities to be stared at and whispered about. Grandma eventually enrolled us in a small private school with a strong privacy policy and a supportive administration that helped us navigate the complexities of our situation. The financial aftermath was complicated. The court seized what assets remained from the fraud, but much of the money was gone. Grandma, living on a fixed income, suddenly had 2 traumatized children to support. A victims fund was established, and ironically, some of the people who'd donated to our fake illnesses contributed again to support our real recovery. The kindness of strangers we'd been forced to deceive became part of our healing process. Years later, I still struggle with the impact of what happened. Trust doesn't come easily when your earliest memories involve performing vulnerability for profit. I second-guess my own emotions, wondering if I'm being genuine or playing a role. Relationships are complicated when you've been taught that love is conditional on performance. But I'm in college now, studying social work with a focus on child advocacy. I want to help kids who are trapped like we were, to be the adult who sees through the performance to the pain underneath. Emma is a teenager now, fierce and protective of her privacy. She's reclaimed her body through dance, the thing Mom had taken from her, moving with a grace that defies the damage done to her legs. She's selective about who she lets into her life, but those she trusts get to see the funny, creative, resilient person she's become. We don't talk much about the YouTube years, but when we do, it's with the understanding that we survived something together that no one else can fully comprehend. Mom still writes from prison occasionally, letters full of justifications and revised history. She maintains that everything she did was out of love, that she was trying to provide opportunities for us. I don't read them anymore. Dad was released early for good behavior and lives across the country now. He sent one letter apologizing, acknowledging the harm he caused, but neither Emma nor I were ready to forgive. Maybe someday, but not yet. The rise of family vlogging continues, new channels popping up daily with bright-eyed parents and camera-ready kids. When I see them, I wonder what happens when the cameras turn off. Are those children choosing to participate? or are they performing for their supper? Are those family moments genuine or scripted for engagement? The platforms have implemented some protections, but the fundamental issue remains that children can't consent to having their childhoods monetized. Our case became a reference point in discussions about child labor laws in the digital age. Advocacy groups use our story to push for legislation protecting children from exploitation by their parents. Some states have passed laws requiring parents to set aside earnings for their children, to limit filming hours, to ensure kids have advocates outside the family. It's progress, but it came too late for Emma and me. I sometimes wonder what our lives would have been like without YouTube, without the camera that became our captor. Would Mom have found another way to control us, or was it the platform that awakened something dormant in her? Would Dad have stood up to her without the financial incentive to comply? These questions don't have answers, but they haunt me during quiet moments. The hardest part is reconciling the parents I thought I had with the criminals they became. There were moments of genuine affection mixed with the exploitation, real family memories tangled up with performed ones. I can't separate the mother who read me bedtime stories from the one who shaved my head for content. They're the same person, and that complexity is something I'll probably spend my whole life trying to understand. Grandma says healing isn't linear, that some days will be harder than others. She's right. There are days when I feel strong and whole, ready to take on the world. Then something triggers a memory, a whir of a camera or a particular lighting setup, and I'm 12 again, bald and terrified and trapped in a lie I can't escape. But those moments pass more quickly now, and I have tools to cope with them that don't involve performance or pretense. Emma and I have talked about writing a book someday, telling our story in full detail. Not for money or fame, but as a warning, a lighthouse for other kids trapped in similar situations. We want people to understand that abuse doesn't always look like violence, that exploitation can be wrapped in hashtags and heart emojis. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones holding the camera, and the audience cheering them on has no idea what's really happening. For now, we focus on building the lives we choose, not the ones chosen for us. Emma is passionate about children's rights and talks about becoming a lawyer. I'm working toward becoming a therapist, specializing in trauma from digital exploitation. We're reclaiming our narratives, writing our own scripts without worrying about views or engagement or monetization. It's a different kind of performance, the daily act of being normal young women with abnormal pasts. The scars remain, physical and mental markers of our years in front of the camera. Emma still has marks on her legs from the braces. I deal with anxiety that might be partially related to the psychiatric drugs I was forced to take. We both struggle with trust, with believing that people's kindness isn't conditional on our performance. But we're learning, slowly, that we deserve love simply for existing, not for the content we can create. Sometimes strangers recognize us, people who remember the case or saw the videos before they were removed. Most are respectful, offering sympathy or sharing their own stories of surviving family trauma. Others are intrusive, wanting details, asking if it was really as bad as the media made it seem. We've learned to set boundaries, to protect our privacy the way no one protected it when we were children. Our story belongs to us now, not to an audience or algorithm. Looking back, I can trace the exact moment our childhood ended on that night when Mom brought out the razor. But in some ways, we were lucky. We survived, we got out, we have a chance at normal lives. Not all kids in similar situations are that fortunate. Some are still performing right now, their childhoods being packaged and sold while audiences click and subscribe and donate, never wondering what happens when the camera finally stops rolling. The truth is that family channels sell a fantasy, the perfect family that doesn't exist anywhere, not even in the families creating the content. Behind every thumbnail of smiling faces might be children who just want to play without being filmed, who want to have bad days without them becoming content, who want to grow up without every moment being monetized. Emma and I learned that the hard way, but at least we learned it in time to save ourselves. This is my story, our story, and I'm sharing it now because silence protects the wrong people. Every time we speak up, we chip away at the system that allowed our exploitation. Every time someone questions whether that family channel is really as perfect as it seems, we've made a difference. Because somewhere out there, there's another Emma, another Sarah, waiting for someone to see past the performance to the pain. And maybe, just maybe, our story will help someone recognize the signs in time to save them. The sun is setting now as I finish writing this, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that Mom would have called perfect lighting. But I don't need to film it. I don't need to share it. I can just sit here and watch it, experiencing this moment for myself alone. That's the freedom we fought for, the simple right to exist without performing. And even though the journey here was brutal, even though we lost years we'll never get back, we made it. We survived. And in the end, that's the only content that truly matters.